Nationwide demonstrations continue in Argentina following the Supreme Court ruling against former President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. During the Great Rally for Peace and Democracy held on Wednesday in Cali, Colombia, President Gustavo Petro called for a dialogue for peace and democracy after attacks in the southwest of the country. And the Palestinian Ministry of Health has announced the collapse of the health system in the northern Gaza Strip, citing restrictions on the entry of medical supplies as the cause. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Argentina, citizens have gathered outside the Buenos Aires house of former President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner a day after the country's Supreme Court upheld her conviction. The ruling has sparked nationwide demonstrations as followers denounce the political proscription of the leader across cities such as Córdoba, Rosario, Bariloche, Mendoza, Santa Fe, Mar del Plata, and Quilmes, among others. In addition, several unions have set up roadblocks on the Pan American Highway and on several sections of the La Plata-Buenos Aires Highway. Meanwhile, students held significant assemblies at universities and approved the occupation of faculties and street blockades. In this context, civil and political forces declared the sentence against President Milei's most relevant opponent as a form of political persecution. In Argentina, citizens expressed their rejection to the Supreme Court's ruling against former President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner and reiterated their support and solidarity with the former president.
The conviction outrages me because it's the opposite of what can be expected to happen in the judiciary. Four magistrates who violated all the constitutional guarantees handing down a ruling. The conviction after it has already been declared that the case was subsidized and acquitted, that it's a laughingstock. I cannot stay at home because Cristina did a lot of things for all of us. We have to be here supporting her. Today we are more Peronist than ever. We are more Argentine than ever. So let's support our candidate, the one who did everything for us, the one who gave everything.
They wanted to kill her, and now they are putting her in jail. And she has been saying it for a long time, and today was the day. But this is not going to stay like this. Because Peronism is standing here, and Peronism is going to unite from Cristina's house, without any doubt.
In this context, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum sent her solidarity to the Argentine leader after the court's ruling.
We express our full solidarity with Cristina Kirchner. From our point of view, this is more of a political issue, and she has our solidarity.
During the Great Rally for Peace and Democracy held on Wednesday in Cali, Colombia, President Gustavo Petro called for a dialogue for peace and democracy after attacks in the southwest of the country. During the rally, Petro addressed to the people to reject the recent violent acts that took place in Cauca, Valle del Cauca and Cali. He also denounced that an attempt was made to silence this region with terror and fear, leaving dozens of people injured and dead, including civilians and members of the security forces. Likewise, he highlighted the history of social struggles and proposed to recover that memory to build a country based on justice, dignified work, and participative democracy. Moreover, the head of state called for national unity, dialogue between opposition parties, and to continue fighting without violence for a more just and peaceful Colombia. They wanted to silence us. They wanted to silence Cali and the southwest of Colombia with terror and fear. They hurt the dozens of inhabitants of the southwest of Colombia, and there were citizens who died, citizens from Cali who died, members of the public forces who died trying to defend the people. The Colombian president also thanked the public forces for their role in foiling the criminal attack perpetrated Tuesday against the city of Cali. The public forces, we are very thankful for their work that is on the side of the protection of the human rights and freedom rights of the people of Colombia, the army of Bolívar. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro attended the swearing-in of Luis Caldera as governor of the state of Zulia and addressed the people. During the ceremony, President Maduro ordered to give immediate solutions to the requirements of the people and made a call to protect Venezuela's peace. He also reaffirmed that an effort has been made in perfect civic-military police union to defend the Zulian territory against the threat of Colombian irregular groups. In this sense, he assured that the recent attacks in the neighboring country are due to Marco Rubio's plan to overthrow the progressive government of Gustavo Petro. At the same time, he emphasized that Venezuela is at Colombia's disposition to provide support in all efforts aimed at consolidating peace in the Colombian nation.
They have activated a plan to overthrow the government of President Gustavo Petro. It is a plan that is being directed by Marco Rubio of the United States, and it aims to fill all of Colombia with criminal gangs, criminal violence, terrorism, to overthrow the progressive government of President Gustavo Petro and impose a scenario for a neo-fascist far-right government to return. That is the truth. That is why it is so important that we tune the instruments that the Venezuelan society has in perfect popular military police fusion. Now with the governor Luis Calderon El Zulia, so that Zulia becomes a free territory of hitmen, of mafia, of narcos.
On the other hand, the head of state, Nicolás Maduro, expressed his support for the former president of Argentina, Cristina Fernandez, and the brave people of that nation.
Especially in this moment when we see how Latin America's geopolitics and the Caribbean are turning towards an offensive to destroy popular, democratic, progressive, and nationalist leaders. We have seen yesterday how the ex-president Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner was attacked with a coup d'état. From here, from Zulia, we send a solidarity hug from the Bolivarian people of Venezuela to former President Cristina Fernandez and the brave people of Argentina. Argentina forever.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Brazil, movements fighting for decent housing marched in Sao Paulo against the wave of evictions promoted by the extreme right-wing governorships that command the mayor's office and the state. Social movements and human rights organizations took to the streets of downtown Sao Paulo to denounce the lack of public policies that guarantee decent housing for the most vulnerable. It is worth noting that so far this year, more than 3,000 families have been evicted in the metropolitan region, many of them without relocation options. These actions put the most vulnerable population at risk and continue to be one of the most urgent issues on the social agenda in Brazil. In Panama, the first round of talks between the banana sector and the National Assembly ended without an agreement amid protests in the capital city against the government's policies. After 10 hours of dialogue, the parties were unable to reach an agreement that would benefit the Panamanian workers who are affected by the reforms to the Social Security Fund promoted by the government. In spite of the lack of agreement, the banana unions informed that they will resume talks in order to address the people's social and labor demands. For more than a month, thousands of people took to the streets to protest the national government's failure to meet the sector's demands. Nicaragua's National Institute of Development Information reported significant progress in the fight against inflation. According to the institution, Nicaragua is positioned as one of the most economically stable countries in Central America. In May 2025, monthly inflation measured by the Consumer Price Index stood at 0.17%, which is lower than 0.60 registered in the same month of 2024. In the same report, authorities highlighted that inflation so far in 2025 reached 1.04% compared to the 2.58% reported in 2024 in the same period. The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, rejected accusations by the Secretary of Homeland Security of the United States, Cristina Fernandez, accusing the head of the Mexican executive in the protest in the city of Los Angeles. At the morning conference, Sheinbaum explained that the idea that the Mexican government would be encouraging violence at the protest in Los Angeles was initiated by opposition figures wanting to create problems between both countries, rejecting the statements made yesterday by U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Cristina Fernandez, who pointed to the Mexican president's responsibility for the protest in California. Sheinbaum pointed out that parts of the statement she made several weeks ago have been used to justify protests against tax on remittances, which are not related to the protest that began last Friday.
Desde el primer momento nosotros dijimos, no estamos de acuerdo.
From the outset, we said that we do not agree with raids as a way of dealing with migrants in the United States, and they have the full support of the consulates, but we have never called for violent mobilization, never in our entire lives.
En toda nuestra vida.
The governments of Bolivia and China consolidate their strategic relations through agreements on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral relations. The Bolivian Foreign Ministry informed about the progress in the agreements between both countries after a meeting between the Foreign Minister Celinda Sosa and the Ambassador of China to Bolivia, Wang Liang. With a memorandum of understanding for global development, Bolivia details that both countries seek to expand and consolidate relations that promote cooperation in health, poverty reduction, industrialization, and South-South cooperation. The text details that the financing of strategic technological and natural disasters projects by Beijing, with which it is positioned as its main commercial partner. The Chinese government, 53 African countries, and the African Union Commission issued a joint declaration in which they established open, inclusive cooperation and against protectionism. The document expresses the results of working meetings between these countries in which they reinforce the voice of the Global South and the importance of cooperation for development, security of the peoples, and for multilateralism. The diplomats stressed the need to work on the global challenges facing sustainable development and called for the resolution of trade differences in order to increase aid, and also reiterated the commitment to sovereignty, international justice, and the global trade order. South Korea's newly elected President Lee Jae-myung has suspended anti-Pyongyang propaganda broadcast at the border with North Korea, aiming to ease tensions and rebuild trust. Inter-Korean relations reached their lowest point in decades during the presidency of the recently impeached Yoon Suk-yeol, but Lee has pledged to restore ties. The presidential office spokesperson Kang Yu-hung said during a press briefing on Wednesday that the president has instructed the military to halt cross-border broadcasts as a gesture aimed at easing tensions with the North. The measure is intended to demonstrate the new South Korean administration's commitment to restoring trust in inter-Korean relations and establishing peace on the Korean peninsula. It is also meant to reduce military confrontation between the two Koreas and open the doors to rebuilding mutual trust. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has announced the collapse of the health system in the northern Gaza Strip, citing restrictions on the entry of medical supplies as the cause. The health organization confirmed that hundreds of patients and injured people are suffering due to a lack of treatment. The hospitals in Gaza that are still operating are at risk of collapse amid the worsening crisis caused by Israeli occupation. Meanwhile, the health ministry of the Palestinian enclave has called on the authorities to intervene and rescue the territory's health system. Amid the collapse of the health system due to the ongoing Israeli aggressions, at least 20 children were wounded in the Gaza Strip and have left for treatment abroad. Dozens of ambulances from the Palestinian Red Crescent were preparing to evacuate patients and their families from Deir al-Balah city in the center of the Palestinian enclave. The children who left were seriously injured, many of them having been injured by Israeli shellings of their homes during the holidays. Meanwhile, the Gazan Health Ministry reported that more than 10,000 sick and wounded people are in need of treatment outside the Gaza Strip, where there is a severe shortage of medicines and medical supplies. Austria came to a standstill on Wednesday to mourn victims of one of the worst outbreaks of violence in its modern history, as authorities search for clues to why a 21-year-old gunman shot dead 10 people at his former high school before killing himself. The dead were commemorated with a minute's silence at 10 a.m. local time. Churches rang funeral bells, including St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, where around 900 public transport vehicles halted for a minute. 6 girls and 3 boys, aged 14 to 17, were among the victims. All the dead, barring one Polish youth, were Austrian citizens. A teacher died from her injuries and 11 people injured are in a stable condition. Police said the man had acted alone in Tuesday's rampage, armed with a shotgun and a pistol. They also stated that he had left a farewell note and video that did not reveal the motive for the attack. In this context, Austria declared 3 days of national mourning. Pope Leo XIV received United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres on Wednesday to discuss world peace and current crisis across the world. During the meeting held in the studio of the Paul VI Lecture Hall at the Vatican City, the two authorities debated on the Holy See's support for the United Nations commitment to world peace and the difficulties the organization is facing while dealing with some of the crises currently unfolding in the world. Guterres met successively with the Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, and with Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, Secretary for Relations with the States and International Organizations. An unprecedented heat wave in May caused temperatures in Iceland and Greenland to soar several degrees above normal, dangerously accelerating the melting of the Arctic ice sheet. This was revealed by an analysis published on Wednesday by World Weather Attribution, which directly associates the phenomenon to climate change caused by human activity. According to the study, Greenland's ice sheet melted 17 times faster than the previous average. According to a study published in 2022 in the scientific journal Nature, the Arctic region is at the forefront of global warming, heating up 4 times faster than the rest of the planet since 1979.
So what we found by looking at this extreme heat, particularly over Iceland, but we also looked over parts of Greenland, that it was an absolute record-breaking event. So it was much hotter than May has ever been in Iceland. At least it was the hottest 1 week that Iceland has ever had in May. with this study, it is super obvious, as you've said, with the melting of the Greenland ice sheet, the potential impacts on the global ocean circulation, that basically is an extreme event that affects the whole world, even though most of the people on this planet won't have heard of this heat wave.
China's National Meteorological Center issued Wednesday a blue alert due to the country's first typhoon of the year. According to the national entity, a level 4 typhoon will develop in the country's southernmost province of Hainan between sunrise and noon on Friday. Its second landfall is expected between the western part of China's Guangdong province and the coastal region of neighboring Gansu Zhuang Autonomous Region on Friday night. The storm is forecast to strengthen in the following days, so coastal regions in Gansu are supported to issue warnings promptly. According to authorities, disruptions and cancellations are expected in railway services, port vessels and shipping lines. Brian Wilson, the leader of the legendary U.S. rock band from the 60s, the Beach Boys, died at the age of 82. His death was announced Wednesday by his family, but no further details were provided as to the cause of death, when and where he died. Wilson's genius for melody, arrangements, and wide-eyed self-expression inspired hit songs that made him one of the world's most influential recording artists. The Beach Boys rank among the most popular groups of the rock era, with more than 30 singles in the top 40 and worldwide sales of more than $100 million. The 1966 album Pet Sounds was voted number 2 in a 2003 Rolling Stone list of the best 500 albums, losing out only to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The group was voted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.